Hello squads, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about writing equations in slope-intercept form. So all the videos we watched so far, they were going one way. So I gave you the equation and you have to graph it. In this case now, we're giving you the graph, or we're going to give you points, and your goal is to write the equation y equals mx plus b. So let's talk about this. So it's not too difficult. So when we talk about linear, there's two things we always need. What are those two things? It's always that we need when we graph a line. So we need slope, and then we need y-intercept. So your m and your b. Remember, my equation is y equals mx plus b. So your goal is to figure out m, and your goal is to figure out b. So if you're ever lost, depending on whatever the equation asks you, always look for how can I find my slope and how can I find my y-intercept. Sometimes the slope might be given, sometimes the y-intercept might be given, sometimes 2 points might be given. You can find the slope that way. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. So let's talk about m. M is slope. So we all might know how to find slope, but what does slope mean? Slope means your constant rate of change. Triangle just means change. So constant rate of change. What does that mean though? We can memorize slope as constant rate of change, but what does it mean in your own words? Well, it's constant rate. So we're figuring it's the same rate. So when we talk about line, the reason why it's a line is because it's going at a constant rate. So for example, 5 steps per second, 20 steps per minute. I breathe, I take 5 breaths per second. So that means consistently on it's consistent, right? Every, 1 second I'm taking 5 breaths. I'm not changing it, I'm not altering it. If I did, then it would not be constant rate. All right, so if a car goes 60 miles per hour, then you're driving 60 miles per hour. Normally it's an average, but if you go at a constant rate of 60 miles per hour, that's gonna be a line. It's your slope. Okay, so how do you find slope? It's your change in your y over your changes in your x. So it's going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So what you're doing is you're subtracting your y's and you're dividing that by your x's. So your differences of your x's. The reason why we do that, it's don't overthink it. If I have 2 points, right, I need to figure out this distance and then that distance to figure out the distance of that guy. So our goal is to subtract the y's and subtract the x's to figure out what is my slope. Well, initially we just do rise over run, right? This is technically rise over run. So we're good at memorizing rise over run. But rise over run only works if we're given a graph. Okay, it's a lot easier. Obviously, if we give you points, you can plot them and do rise over run, but there's no point graphing it if our problem's not asking us to graph it. So, rise over run, my rise, if this distance here is going to be y2 minus y1, this distance here is going to be x2 minus x1. So, rise over run gives you that equation. So, these two are the same thing. Don't think of it differently, like they're two separate identities. There's one concept. So think of it graphically. Okay? Let's take an example. If I give you a point like 0, 2, and then 4, 3, and I ask you to write the equation of this line that has these 2 points, the first thing I notice is this guy here. What does that guy represent? That's your y-intercept. Okay, so we don't even have to find b, so we're already 50% there. So what are the 2 things we need? We need slope, we need y-intercept. Well, I already have my y-intercept. So how do you find slope? We can do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it's x1, y1, x2, y2. So take 3 minus 2 divided by 4 minus 0, so you get 1/4. So that's my slope. So then we put it all together. Mx plus b, y equals 1/4 x plus 2. 2 is my y-intercept. Okay? We can test this. If you want, you can graph this to 0, 2, and then 4, 3. this guy here. What's my slope? You go up 1, right 4. So 1 over 4 is my slope. My y-intercept's 2. And we check to make sure it's correct. So this is good to go. Okay, so what are the 2 things we need? Slope, y-intercept. Y-intercept you find by plugging in any point back into the equation once you find the slope. So the first step should always be find the slope. Okay, so that concludes our lesson with writing equations in slope-intercept form. Let's get ready for our 3 problems. Good job. Okay, let's take a look. If my slope is 6 and goes through 2, 6. Okay, I want you to write the equation in slope-intercept form. So 2 things we need: slope, y-intercept. I already gave you the slope, so you're pretty much there. All you need to do is plug this guy in for x and y and solve for b. So I'm gonna give you about 30 seconds to a minute. Try your best, as always I ask, and then we can go from there. Go. All right, let's take a look. So y equals mx plus b. We know m already, that's nice. My goal is to find b. So how do you find b? Well, think of that guy. That point is given. Here's x, here's y. I'm going to plug it in for x and y and then solve for b. So 6 equals 6 times 2 plus b. So I plugged in 2 for x, 6 for y. Now I only have 1 variable. All I have to do is solve for b. So it's just your basic 1-step equation. Subtract 12. So b is -6. So we're done. So my final equation is 6x minus 6. What that means is 6x minus 6 has a slope of 6, but also goes through 2, 6. You can graph it to see, does it really go through 2, 6? That's a good way of checking your answers, making sure you're doing this correctly. Alright, so check your answers, make sure you do this correctly, see where your errors were. Let's get ready for an intermediate. If I give you a graph, so here's 0, 1, -2, 0. I want you to write the equation of this graph. Okay, we'll give you about 30 seconds to a minute. Remember 2 things: slope, y-intercept, go. Alright, let's take a look. So I need y equals mx plus b. What do I know so far? I know this is my b actually. Okay, it's actually going through the y-intercept, that's my b. But I do need to find slope. I could do rise over run. So let's do that. You go up 1, right 2. So my slope is actually 1/2. And then my y-intercept is 1. Okay? And we could test it, right? I start at 1, up the mountain, go down 1, left 2. We actually hit -2, 0, so we're good to go. So not too bad. So I'm trying to give you every different way of looking at this through points, through graphs, okay? Last problem, or advanced problem. So I gave you 2, 1, and 4, 7. I don't give you the slope. I do not give you the y-intercept, so you have to find all of it. Try your best as your last one. If you can do this, you're good to go. You master this concept. You got about 30 seconds to a minute. Try your best. Go. Okay, 2 things. Slope and y-intercept. Let's find slope first. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So remember it's x1, y1, x2, y2. So you have 6 over 2, which is 3. So my slope is 3. So right now you have 3x plus b. Remember the first problem I gave you b, so all you have to do was plug it in. In this case, I don't know what b is. There's no 0, anything. So we actually have to plug in any value. I always say pick the easier one. 2, 1's a little bit easier. So I'm going to plug that in for x and y and solve for b. So you have 1 equals 3 times 2 plus b. So I plugged in 1, 2 for x, 1 for y. So you have 1 equals 6 plus b. My goal is to solve for b. Subtract 6. So b is -5. So we're done, but you have to write it all together. So y equals 3x minus 5. Remember, circle your answers. Your teacher likes it when you circle your answers. They don't have to look everywhere for it. So make sure you guys start circling your answers or scoring it. Okay, so that concludes our lesson. Remember 2 things we need to find when writing equations in slope-intercept form. What is it again? Quote, your slope, your y-intercept. You could do rise over run to find slope, or you could do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then we can plug in a point, any point given on the line, to solve for your y-intercept. Alright, so make sure you subscribe to my channel, turn on your notifications. Let's get ready for some math videos. Great job!